Hello everyone, welcome to the Bobcat Den. So today, that's my new line, okay? Okay. So today we are watching Film Theory. This is supposed to be like Game Theory, but it's from movies. Film Theory, Disney, Moana's Secret, Identity Reveal, Moana. This this is actually, his videos are good. Wow. Okay. I just don't know how he does that. Like, hello internet and welcome to Game Theory. I just don't know.
In Disney's Moana, we see former wrestler Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson play Maui, a powerful Polynesian demigod. That makes sense. But who knew he could sing? Well, old school wrestling fans, that's who.
Bright light city, gonna set my soul on fire. So viva Rock Vegas!
Viva Rock Vegas, indeed. From that to highest earning actor in the world? Oh man, you have come a long way, Dwayne.
Wait. Okay. I'm sorry if you hear something, but that's my mom. It's Saturday. We're doing cleanup. Okay. How's he walking around? Yeah, silence.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, where Mr. Rock, Dwayne. Can I call you Dwayne? If you're watching, Dwayne, no need to thank me for dredging up all those old embarrassing clips. What else can I say except for, you're welcome. Segue to Moana, the new Disney classic that needs no introduction. There's a lot to love with Moana, from the gorgeous visuals to songs written by the guy who made musicals cool again, Lin-Manuel Miranda, to a chicken obviously named after the guy reminding us that this is library.
Hey! This is library.
Or just me impersonating a valley girl. Hey! Well, Lilo and Stitch gave us a small glimpse of Hawaiian culture. Moana really feels like it's celebrating the legends and traditions of all of Polynesia. Stories that have been almost completely absent in pop culture history. Now, if you're a regular watcher of this series, you might be thinking to yourself, yeah, Matt Pat, talk all you want about how nice this movie is. I just know that you're gonna tell me that Moana is the devil, or that Maui is a serial killer, or that the pig is actually Moana's brother. And you know what? I can't blame you for that, dear theorist. In the recent past, my theories on lighthearted animated movies have tended to stray a bit to the dark side. But you've judged me too quickly, because for today's Moana theory, I turned over a new leaf. I tried something different, and I focused on something positive. And after looking at all the fantastical elements of Moana, as well as some Polynesian mythology, my theory ended up being Moana is dead. Oh, I'm like the living embodiment of Dark Kermit. But seriously, there are some weird happenings going on in Moana's little boating adventure that need an explanation. The first and biggest red flag that set off my theorist sense was that she's able to follow Maui into Lalotai, the realm of monsters. I mean, at the very least, this extended fall into the water should kill her. The surface tension of water makes landing on it from a very high place like landing on concrete. And the movie even makes multiple jokes about how long the fall is and the fact that she should be dead after it.
Well, she's dead.
Sure, all this is fine for Maui because he's a demigod, but it just seemed like something that a human shouldn't be able to do. So I looked it up and learned that in early drafts of the movie, Lalotai was described as a place for ancestral spirits, i.e. the dead. And that the directors of the movie, John Musker and Ron Clements, still refer to it as the underworld in the special features of the film.
First entered the underworld.
So my fears about the scene weren't getting any better, but I swear to you, Internet, I was determined to stay positive. Maybe in Polynesian myth, humans can go to the underworld. So I dug even deeper and learned that the Polynesian underworld is usually called Pelotu rather than Lalotai. And according to William Mariner, an English writer who lived in Tonga in the early 19th century, Pelotu was said to be both invisible and inaccessible to mortals. We even get a hint of that in the movie when Tamatoa, the giant coconut crab, expresses confusion about Moana's presence in Lalotai, asking her,
What are you doing down here in the realm of the month?
Just pick an eye, baby.
So that was red flag number 1. Add to it the fact that Moana frequently sees the spirit of her dead grandmother Tala, and you've got yourself no ordinary day for a mere mortal. There's even a scene in the movie that could definitely have killed her. The first time Moana tries to sail beyond the reef, her boat gets overturned by a large wave. She's then tossed into the water, the canoe bonks her on the head, and her foot gets stuck under a piece of coral. I mean, I'm no doctor, but getting smacked in the head by a large piece of wood, then getting trapped underwater for an extended period of time seems pretty bad for your health. And from that point forward, Moana seems like she's impervious to harm. Look, I'm not even having to dig into genetics or weird scientific connections. This one is outright handed to me. Kind of. You see, on the surface, the idea of Moana being dead is interesting and would make for a great clickbait thumbnail. But if we look again, the evidence doesn't hold up. For instance, if that reef crash is indeed the moment where she passes on, then the people in her village are interacting with a ghost for an awfully long amount of time like it's no big deal. And interacting is one thing, but making a teenage ghost girl your next chief, that is where I draw the line. Also, it's worth noting that the whole thing about her talking to her grandmother's spirit is rooted in Polynesian legend. According to anthropologist Zachary Graves, in traditional Polynesian culture, ghosts are often thought to interact with the living, whether for good or for evil. And if they're both dead, why is Grandma a glowing white spirit thingy and Moana is just Moana? The theory just falls apart. And yet, there's something fishy still going on because, let's face it, none of this explains my initial concern. Why Moana can go to Lalotai, survive that fall into the underworld, land of ancestors, realm of monsters. Moana may not be dead, but she is something. So I kept digging, determined to figure out what exactly was going on, and I found out that my original theory of her being dead couldn't have been more wrong. In fact, when I step back to look at all the evidence, she's the exact opposite of being dead. Moana is a god. Well, demigod, actually. She's just like Maui. Let me explain. First, Moana's relationship with the water is a bit weird, right? After decades of the heart of Te Fiti being missing, the ocean just chooses Moana? What? Because she saved a baby turtle? I don't think so. Who wouldn't save a cute baby sea turtle? It just seems weird. Why her and why now? What makes Moana so special? More on that in a minute. Also, the ocean's treatment of her is pretty inconsistent. She almost drowns in her first boating adventure, but after that moment, she's virtually invulnerable to the sea. Every time Maui throws her off the boat, she gets thrown right back on. When she asks the sea to help her find Maui, yes, she gets caught in a storm, but it's a storm that washes her up on the shore of Maui's island. And every time the heart of Te Fiti goes into the drink, the ocean spits it right back at her like a big petrified loogie. Yeah, we're making phlegm jokes. When I wrote it, I thought it was funny, but now looking back, it's not. It's not at all. Anyhow, all of these demonstrate how Moana and the sea are BFFs, but the one moment that's really striking is at the very end of the movie when, spoiler alert, Moana orders the ocean to move fish, get out the way, so that she can confront Te Kā and the water parts right in front of her to clear a path on the ocean floor. Now, obviously, this is very reminiscent of the iconic scene in the Bible.
It's not just the ships,
Oh,
armor,
God.
or aircraft. It's the will to fight and determination to win, found inside every Marine.
Get out, get out, get out. Let me get out, please.
Where
Thank
Moses
you.
parts the Red Sea with the divine power of God on his side. And if this was what the movie was referencing, it would hurt my case for Moana being a demigod since Moses is a mortal. But remember, we're talking about Polynesian beliefs. Drawing a parallel to a Bible verse here doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What would really help me out, though, is if there were some sort of similar story from Polynesian mythology. And wouldn't you know it, I've got one. One Hawaiian legend tells of Kane Apua, who's described as a god with a human form, who was able to cause water to flow from rocks and make a safe passage across the sea. Now, Maui certainly doesn't have that kind of power. If he did, he could have escaped from his island long before his 1,000-year exile was up. So it seems likely that the one calling the shots here is Moana herself. The second thing that points to Moana being more than human is simply her name. The name Moana means ocean or deep sea in a few of the Pacific languages, from Maori to Hawaiian. And while the sea could have chosen Moana because it's like, hey girl, we got the same name, so I'm gonna send you on a quest, it's much more likely that Disney's continuing the Polynesian pattern of having deities whose names are the things that they're gods of. For example, Te Fiti is the Maori god of wind and storms. Translated, the name Tafiti means wind. Pele is a Polynesian god of fire whose name means volcano, and Rangi is a god of the sky whose name means, say it with me now, Skittles. Sorry, I was just making sure you're paying attention. Of course, it means sky. Now, maybe the writers of Moana simply aren't very creative and arbitrarily chose a name that means water, but does that sound like Disney? Or is it more likely that the creators of this movie, who literally formed a full oceanic trust of advisors to make sure they honored the culture their movie was portraying, chose the kind of name that would be given to a demigod of the sea? Still, all this leaves us with one problem. Demigods don't just come out of nowhere. Either they're born to divine parents or else they're somehow created. Like Maui when his parents tossed him into the sea and he presumably died. So maybe that means Moana died. No! Stop it! Turned away from that road and I am not looking back. Part 3 of the evidence that Moana isn't mortal and prepare to have your mind blown is about her lineage. Now, both of Moana's parents, Tui and Sina, appear to be mortals, but that's not quite the end of the story. For starters, grandmother Tala, with whom Moana has a particularly close relationship, might not be mortal herself. Tala is the name of the goddess of the stars in Tagalog myth, and oh, would you look at that, she just so happens to use the stars to demonstrate to Moana how she can find Maui. Now, obviously that's incidental, but get ready, because here's the doozy. Moana's mother's name is Sina. John Cena! Completely unrelated. Sina happens to be the name of a famous maiden from Polynesian mythology. This maiden was loved by an eel, but Sina the maiden was like, ew, gross. Demonstrate to Moana how she can find Maui. Now, obviously that's incidental, but get ready, because here's the doozy. Moana's mother's name is Sina. John Cena! Completely unrelated. Sina happens to be the name of a famous maiden from Polynesian mythology. This maiden was loved by an eel, but Sina the maiden was like, ew, gross, eel love, and reported the problem to her husband, who then killed the eel and buried its carcass. From that dead eel sprang the coconut tree, and thus coconuts came into the world. Does that sound like a familiar story? It should, because it's a story that Maui sings about in the song You're Welcome.
I killed an eel, I buried its guts, sprouted a tree, now you got coconuts.
Oh yeah, did I mention that Sina's husband in that legend is named Maui? And not just some dude named Maui, but the trickster demigod. Tui, you are not the father! Remember that Moana's quote-unquote father, the chief, is the one who forbids her to sail beyond the reef. But when her mother discovers that she's going to sail off secretly into the night, she says nothing. She actually helps Moana pack her things and sends her on her way. That always felt like such a weird moment to me, but it makes a whole lot more sense when her mother sees this dangerous voyage as inevitable. Moana, as a demigod, being compelled to go out and accomplish greater things, and along the way, find her real father. A father whose immortal blood is the key to her own powers over the ocean. That's right, Moana is the daughter of Maui. Now, I admit nowhere was I able to find that Moana is the name of the child of Maui and Sina, so getting 100% confirmed status on this is impossible unless one of the creators of the movie steps forward and says yay. But I was able to find one last mind blow for you that rockets this thing into the stratosphere. One of the children Sina and Maui did have was named Kamapua'a, and this wasn't just any ordinary kid. According to the lore, it actually looked like a pig. Ever wonder why the people of Motunui didn't eat Moana's pet pig if they had no fish and failing crops? Well, that pig's name is Pua, which sounds an awful lot like it's short for Kamapua'a. That's right, the pig in Moana is indeed Moana's brother. Talk about your weird family tree. So there you have it, no serial killers, no devils, but a pig that's related to our latest Disney princess and a hidden godlike lineage that Moana will never know about. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. Ring the subscription bell, my friends. Not only do I cover Disney theories like literally all the time, but also I think I deserve it after this one. Polynesian.
For this video, cause oh god, Wally eats feast on flesh, not real sisters. Yeah, cause that's true. Cause they both have different hair. The missing link, free the toad. The toads. This is not a car. He failed us. Oh, I'm scared. I want to see the toads.
We could never do what they do. But what we can do is be a partner that never quits.
One of my favorite parts parts of Mario Maker 2's story mode is figuring out which character from the Marioverse delivers each particular level. A certain mage is undoubtedly Kamek, name withheld by request is Bowser Jr. based on how each level's described, and father of name withheld then is obviously Bowser himself. And with these sorts of little Easter eggs comes some pretty crazy realizations, like the fact that half of Bowser Jr.'s weekly allowance is 200 gold coins. He's getting 400 gold coins every week. That is 4 one-ups worthy. That's 2 different basic outfits from Mario Odyssey. That is the cost of the entire first floor of one of the wings of Peach's entire castle here in Mario Maker, which just goes and makes me wonder, how much is that 400 coins going to be worth? How much is Peach's castle worth in this game? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I did the math, and the answer isn't what you'd expect.
Oh, no touchscreen.
Hell,
Wait, Game Theory, let me do this. Hello, Internet, and welcome to Game Theory. Oh, that feels good saying that. Okay. Oh, and also let me do the Nugget line Game Theory. Yes, my hair is very luxurious and got a nice stain. It sounds okay. Never mind.
oh, Internet, welcome to Game Theory, the show that, much like
Nugget.
Bowser, just won't leave the Mushroom Kingdom alone. Speaking of Bowser, I'd like to extend a long overdue welcome to Doug Bowser, the new president of Nintendo of America, taking the place of my body is ready himself, Reggie Fils-Aimé. Reggie left some big shoes to fill, in more ways than one considering the guy's 6'1". But Doug, you, my friend, are living proof to the power of nominative determinism. The term nominative determinism is the theory that says that your name biases you into certain career paths. Like, say for instance, your name is Seymour Butts, and you wind up as a proctologist. Or, surprisingly, how men named Dennis are actually more likely to become dentists. True story. Now, the scientific evidence is a bit spotty, and recent research seems to be overturning
like Dennis
a lot of these
Daly?
early findings. That being said, a man named Bowser going on to be in charge at Nintendo? What are the odds of that? It's insane! The guy's a supervillain, isn't he? It's gotta be. He's gonna take over the company. I've been the ground, and he'll be like, ha-ha,
dear
Mario! I've beaten you this. I don't know why I gave Bowser a Mario voice. I've defeated you by finally taking over your company. It's not even a Mario voice, it's just garbage voice. Everyone behind the camera is like just shaking their head in shame. I'm embarrassed to be here. Let's move on with the episode, please. Anyway, the long and short is that Mario Maker 2 is out now, and I've been having a ton of fun with it. If you've got a level that you think I should play, scroll down to the comments section and leave the code right there. Chances are, gonna be playing it on GT Live. But, in a pleasant surprise, the game also shipped with a story mode, where a bunch of toads are working to rebuild Princess Peach's castle after a creepy dog here with a Wii Fit balance board around his neck hits a button and rocket wipes the castle away from existence. Look, you know what? I'm not complaining here. Beggars can't be choosers. It's kind of fun. The levels are actually really creatively designed and show the breadth of what you can do in this game. And the TLDR of the whole thing is that in order to fund the rebuilding project, Mario has to complete levels and gather coins, purchasing upgrades until the castle is standing proud once again. Well, the story might be dismissed by some as a simple tutorial leading up to the real game of playing the homebrew Mario levels of online strangers and raging out as you continually lose against Ross's levels from Game Grumps. The story mode is interesting to me for one major reason. It introduces us to the strangest Mario character ever, the religious eraser.
Does some doubt still linger about the path you've chosen? Let me erase the stain of doubt from your mind. Let us cleanse ourselves.
Okay, so the story mode's interesting for 2 reasons. One, the very creepy, very disturbing religious eraser that probably merits his own theory on another day. And 2, by giving us a complete tally of exactly how much money it takes to construct Peach's castle as measured in coins, which means if we compare that building cost in coins to the real-world building cost of a similar-sized castle or similar building supplies, it could finally reveal the answer to the secret of the Mushroom Kingdom's economy. Just how much is 1 gold coin in Mario actually actually worth? And what is the value of Peach's castle? All of those answers and more are what I plan to find today. Now,
Yeah.
calculating the cost of Peach's castle in Mushroom Kingdom currency is actually shockingly easy. All you gotta do is tally up the coin costs of all the individual upgrades, because we see it built from foundation up through roof, including little amenities like cannons and stained glass. If you add up all those various costs throughout Mario Maker 2's storyline, Peach's 100% completed castle costs a total of 14,100 coins. Seems pretty affordable, but then again, these are gold coins that we're talking about, and more often than not, these hunks of precious metal are at least the size of Mario's oversized bubblehead, so each one could be their own small fortune for all we know. So, with the number of coins in tow, it's time to translate those castle costs into real-world costs. And it's here where things start to get a little bit more complicated. How do you price out a fictional building? Admittedly, we've done it once before on this channel with the Luigi's Mansion episode, but in that game, Luigi sees every single room. Heck, forget seeing every single room. He is humping every single chair in every single room looking for a few extra bucks. The castle in Mario Maker 2, however, is a completely different situation. Sure, it was built for Princess Peach, thereby making it Peach's castle in one sense, but this isn't the Peach's castle that we've seen throughout the rest of the franchise. If its relatively small size wasn't clue enough, notice that we build a foundation, but we leave no room for a basement. This in turn clearly eliminates
I just gotta do something. I'm back.
the design for Peach's castle from Super Mario 64, where the basement had, without exaggeration, the best levels in that game. Evidently, Peach is just a princess of many different homes. Your princess is in another castle? Sure, why not? She apparently has a couple. This one must just be her summer vacation home. Oh wait, that's Isle Delfino. It's just her sub-castle. So, how do you price out something that you never actually get to see the details of? Well, you don't. Instead, you fixate on what you do know, and then you build out from there. The easiest place for us to anchor our comparison of Mushroom Kingdom and real-world prices is actually in the finishing touches of the castle. One touch in particular, the colorful stained glass window that completes the whole project. This is a staple of practically all versions of Peach's castle, and considering that stained glass is a fairly standard thing that exists here in the real world, we can actually start getting some price estimates and then apply that to the rest of the Princess Peach building costs. Now, stained glass prices in the real world vary a lot based on the different techniques that are being used, the quality of the glass, the number of pieces required for the final design, with some finished stained glass pieces containing hundreds or even sometimes thousands of small geometric pieces of glass.
Oh my
As such,
God.
costs are gonna change a lot, ranging anywhere from $150 to $500 per square foot of window space. Surprisingly though, our image of Princess Peach is actually a fairly simple design. It contains less than 100 pieces in total, and even then those pieces are large, and they're mostly basic, simple shapes that wouldn't require a lot of precision cutting to execute. As such, I'm actually going to price this window on the lower end of the cost spectrum here, about $200 per square foot, which means that the question now is, how big is the window? For size, it's our always faithful pixel measurements to the rescue. Now, based on the dimensions of this lovely stained glass window relative to Mario's height as he enters the castle, which we know canonically to be 5 foot 1 inch tall, the pixel window area is around 11.7 square feet. Now, admittedly, I saw that number and it felt a bit small, but when you actually compare the size of this castle and its window relative to the size of other castles and other windows that we see in other parts of the Mario franchise, this window is actually significantly smaller than most other appearances of that stained glass. In Super Mario 64, it is like 3 times the height of Mario, so that thing is massive, that castle is massive, but again, we're not talking about that castle. We're talking about Mario Maker 2's castle, and when you see it relative to the size of Toad's and Mario and Princess Peach as they stand in and around the castle, the size and shape of that window actually are believably that size, just kind of a relatively small window. So with a grand total size of 11.7 square feet and a relatively simple design as far as stained glass windows are concerned, the total cost of that window in real life, were you to produce it, would be about $2,340. If you include installation costs, that's going to run you about an average of $500. We get ourselves a final total stained glass window cost of $2,840. Since purchasing the stained glass for Peach's Castle in Mario Maker 2 costs 2,000 coins. We're actually pretty close to having a 1-to-1 ratio of dollars to coins. To be exact, $2,840 being the equivalent of 2,000 coins means that one Mushroom Kingdom gold coin is worth $1.42. That is it, $1.42. You're lucky to get a McDonald's hamburger for that. It seems unbelievably low, but believe it or not, this incredibly low estimate is actually consistent with what we see across the greater Mario franchise. In his video calculating the richest video game characters of all time, my fellow game theorist Austin used a similar method, where he priced out a pair of musical symbols that are available for purchase in Super Mario RPG, and he found that the coin was only a few cents higher.
In RPG, symbols cost 42 coins, making each coin worth about $1.66.
That's not that far off, and it's confirmed across multiple games using multiple real-world items. So it's a pretty good standard measurement. But still, it seems unbelievable, right? We are talking about giant discs of gold floating in midair. It has got to be worth more than just a buck and change, isn't it? Again, that's what my MatPat Tingle was telling me, but then I thought about it, and it started to make a bit more sense. For us, gold is super valuable because it's super rare as a metal's concerned. But in the Mushroom Kingdom, all you need to do is walk down any random forest path and you're already finding yourself a couple hundred. The biggest challenge in Mario is finding a pocket big enough to shove them all into, or maybe a belt that's strong enough to hold up your gold-filled pants. And that, my friends, is why the Mario Brothers always make sure to wear overalls. Do you feel that? That's the feeling of so many mysteries being solved in one given episode. Anyway, a couple hundred. The biggest challenge in Mario is finding a pocket big enough to shove them all into, or maybe a belt that's strong enough to hold up your gold-filled pants. And that, my friends, is why the Mario Brothers always make sure to wear overalls. Do you feel that? That's the feeling of so many mysteries being solved in one given episode. Anyway, using that coin-to-dollar ratio, we can finally find the cost of Princess Peach's Castle in Mario Maker. To 100% complete the game, it'll take 14,100 Mushroom Kingdom coins.
I'll be back. I'll be back.
What is that, man? Llegas cuando mapeas los cuartos, si es necesario, mapeas 2 veces.
Okay, I got my magic marker.
Points, meaning that we're gonna get ourselves to the astonishing grand total of $20,022. According to HomeAdvisor.com, it costs on average about $150 per square foot to build your home, meaning that in the real world, if you had a budget of only $20,022 and were building your home in the cheapest possible building materials legally allowed, you'd only have enough to pay for 150 square foot of dwelling space. At most. That's not a castle. Heck, it's too small to even be an apartment. The smallest of trailer homes is between 600 and 1,300 square feet. These so-called tiny homes are 400 to 1,000 square feet. And those things even have tiny in the name. For crying out loud, there's even been a recent housing movement where people are living out of repurposed shipping containers. You know, the ones that they use to cart things around on giant ocean liners. Yeah, those are even bigger than the square footage that this money allows. Those are about 350 square feet. A shipping container is bigger than the amount that she's spending on this castle in the Mushroom Kingdom. No joke, at 150 square feet, you're living in less space than 4 ping pong tables put together. It is literally the size of a small college dorm room. And again, that is based on the cheapest possible building materials that are legally allowed, building in the states that have the cheapest possible labor allowed. But obviously, Princess Peach's Mario Maker 2 castle is larger than 150 square feet. I mean, it's obviously much smaller than her normal castle, but it's certainly not 4 ping pong tables strapped together levels of small. So how could you make that small amount of money be enough to build something as large as what we're seeing happening in Mario Maker here? Well, my friends, in order to do that, we have to get cheaper.
Cheaper than my 11-year-old shoe?
Cheaper.
Cheaper than my landlord?
Cheaper.
Cheaper than you when I ask for more production equipment?
Cheaper. And you don't need those supplies.
Cheaper than my dad?
still. My friends, if you want to make a castle that large using that
Wait.
small amount of supplies,
Cheaper than.
to build something as large as what we're seeing happening in Mario Maker here, well, my friends, in order to do that, we have to get cheaper.
Cheaper than my 11-year-old shoe?
Cheaper.
Cheaper than my landlord?
Cheaper.
Cheaper than you when I ask for more production equipment?
Cheaper. And you don't need those supplies.
Cheaper than my dad?
Cheaper than that still. My friends, if you want to make a castle that large using that small amount of money, we're gonna have to do something extreme. We're gonna have to get Toadette cheap. You see, in the game, the construction project is being managed by a small amount of money. We're gonna have to do something extreme. We're gonna have to get Toadette cheap. You see, in the game, the construction project is being managed by Toadette, the chief. She just sucks at her job. First, she can't manage budgets or schedules, resulting in the employees not having enough equipment on site to do the work that they need to do. According to Green Toad, the chief took my cloud because she said she needed it for something or other. And according to Red Toad, we went over budget and ran out of stone for the stairs. But it's one thing to be bad with money and supplies, it's another thing entirely to be negligent with your crew. The Purple Toad gets completely lost due to scheduling errors by Toadette. And as Blue Toad says, I blame the chief personally. When something goes wrong, it's usually management's fault. Worse, though, is when the entire crew gets kidnapped and Toadette barely notices, saying, was there a Lazy Toad convention in the bathroom? Going so far that her employees are scared that she's going to dock their pay. Let me reiterate that last point. The employees working on Princess Peach's castle here in Mario Maker 2 are scared that their pay will be docked by Toadette because they were kidnapped and held prisoner against their will. So
Welcome to a world where you can feel more.
Is the video going?
So if you're underfunded to the point of not having basic building supplies, but you still have a castle you need to deliver, what do you do? Basically, you're left with three options. A, finding materials that are even cheaper than what's used by slumlords. B, underpaying your workers. Or C, all of the above. And you can't spell chief without a big old capital C. Let's face it, the chief is all about style over substance. My vision is springing to life right before my eyes, she proclaims midway through the project. Oh yeah, Toadette, is your vision spending a few grand on unimportant details like a stained glass window, but then cutting costs on the stuff that really matters, like, say, I don't know, the foundation for the entire building, where you barely spent 100 coins on it? Without a substantial foundation, it means the heavy stones that are laid on the castle walls are gonna deform the ground underneath, making the walls collapse into themselves in a short amount of time. The first version of this castle was lost when a dog accidentally pressed a reset button, but this version of the castle is simply gonna collapse under its own weight because Toadette sucks at blueprints. Forget the Leaning Tower of Pisa, we're gonna get ourselves the Leaning Castle of Peach. Okay, that was a terrible joke, but it wasn't as bad as Toadette's management skills. They only are able to get away with their gross underfunding because Mario is providing free labor and free goods that he's finding in the levels. He's constantly running errands to make up for the errors in Toadette's planning and corner cutting. When you don't even have the basic building materials on hand and have to rely instead on a friendly Italian plumber providing free labor for your project, you may want to consider that maybe this was your problem to begin with. But can Toadette accept the blame and grow and move on from her mistakes?
Yes.
No! Toadette only sees one possible failure point in this whole thing, saying, and this is a legitimate quote from a Nintendo game, I blame the Union. Mario Maker 2, now with 100% more anti-worker union propaganda. Jeez, if you're looking for an explanation as to why things are going so poorly on the job site, this ain't it, Chief. In short, and let me make this perfectly clear, in Mario Maker 2, Peach's wealth is literally built on the exploitation of underpaid and under-respected Toad workers. Even Toadette's underlings know it's time for a change in leadership. As Red Toad himself observes, that chief, she's brilliant, but troubled. Troubled? Yeah, that is the word that I want to use to describe my boss and the person in charge of my very limited funding. These poor Toads are being underpaid underpaid to the point where they're basically slave labor. As Green Toad himself says, when I make Chief one day, things are gonna be different for the little guy. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Mario Maker 2. The Mario game with deep lore about labor battles in the Mushroom Kingdom. On one side, we have
Also, I don't know if my voice sounds different, but I have like an allergy. I actually do. I just had an allergy yesterday.
Toadette, brilliance but troubled. On the other side, an army of abused toads forced to build Peach's castle yet again. A literal piece of garbage that is set to collapse at any minute, built on their underpaid backs. Yet another example of the little guy getting taken advantage of while the rich just get richer. Forget building a castle, the only thing you're building in the story mode of Mario Maker 2 is a literal garbage fire. But hey, do you want to save money to afford your own tiny home? Or heck, dream big, your own crappy castle just like Princess Peach. Well, take it from someone who just finished a home improvement job with an irresponsible contractor just like Toadette. You're gonna want to hold on to every penny you can. Which is why today's video is brought to you by Honey, the easiest way to save money while you're shopping online. Honestly, before I found out about Honey, seeing the promo code box when I was ready to check out of an online purchase just stressed me out. It was one of those things where I'm like, should I be typing something in here? Is there a code that exists that I should know about? Here, let me look around for an egregious amount of time. Or let me just click buy and feel completely irresponsible that I'm just throwing my money away. But now, thanks to Honey, all that anxiety is gone. Honey is a free tool that connects to your computer's browser and, as you're shopping online, scans the internet for coupon codes and other discounts. Then, like magic, it automatically applies the best ones to your cart when you're checking out. It works on over 20,000 websites, including some of the biggies like Amazon, Best Buy, and Pizza Hut. Today's episode was all about big numbers, so here's a couple more. Not only did Honey test over 1 billion promo codes last year, 1 billion with a B, it actually applied 167,066 working codes on people's orders. That is 185 million times that people were about to overpay for something that they were buying online that Honey ultimately saved them money on. That is hundreds of thousands of dollars saved for customers just like you and me. And specifically for me, most recently, Honey saved me $72 on
Okay. Okay, this will be the end of the video. What is that? This will be the end of the video. Make sure to subscribe, slap that bell,